All right, what's up? So today we have Krushi Patel, a fourth-year aerospace engineering major who is intern for Rolls-Royce Engines. He's ranked fifth in his class, and he has contributed to several student organizations at Ohio State, and he has a position at Accenture waiting for him upon graduation. What's up, Krushi? How's it going, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Awesome. So let's get right to it. How did you go from being an aerospace engineering major to finding your way into the field of technology consulting at Accenture?
Yeah. I'm doing aerospace engineering, and then I ended up getting a co-op position with Rolls-Royce in my sophomore year. So it was 3 rotations. I did a year with them. I was supposed to do a year with them, so I did. I started in engineering, electrical computers, more like electrical engineering role for one of my rotations. Ended up picking up aerospace engineering role for my second rotation. But when I took time off, and during my, I would say, sophomore, junior-ish years, I got more interested into entrepreneurship, and then started working with a startup on campus. Kind of did a couple side projects on my own. Started learning more about software and just kind of get feet wet into coding. So I came back for a semester in school. I mostly worked on just my startup on side, and then I planned on, when I go back to Rolls, I was like, hey, I don't want to do an aerospace kind of work, so I planned on getting internship with Rolls, doing some full stack development work. And at that point, I had no clue about any like software engineering development work. The only things I've done are like more like scientific computing kind of work, or coding on side, just for fun.
Yeah.
I ended up getting internship with them for full stack development. Did that for 3 months. The semester before I did that, when I was in school, I worked on a startup by myself, and then a couple other people. That was also a software product startup, and then that's how I got more into tech. Then when I was looking for jobs in last semester, I was mostly looking for outside of aerospace engineering, because couple of reasons being that I felt aerospace was a little bit slower, just because a lot more involvement with government, defense, just under security issues. Wanted something more fast paced. Wanted something where if I wanted to start something on my own, it would be easier and not that capital intensive. So like I can never, like, it would be hard to start a startup in aerospace on my own, but if it's software related, I can, right? Just kind of more wider opportunities, and I just enjoy it a little bit more, especially with having to work with my own startup and trying to work on that. Then went through this interview season, was pretty lucky, got a lot of interviews, and ended up getting offer from Accenture, and decided that I definitely see myself being a fit for a tech analyst or tech consultant kind of position, just because I kind of get bored of the same thing if I do for like a longer time, and so consulting gives the opportunity to like work on project-based jobs, and not really like you're doing the same thing for years and years, right? So
yeah. All right, awesome, very impressive. So
was not really. I guess school is pretty big. I definitely like getting the internship with Rolls had a lot to do with getting all the interviews, or
big so.
just having a good resume when you graduate, right? That's definitely a big one. But I think the one thing that definitely sets apart was I had enough side projects that I worked on that I did not have any projects from my class in my resume. So especially like for example, if you go to career fair after freshman year, then every engineering student has their project being the robot that they build in their freshman year engineering class, right? Then a lot of engineering students will have their senior year capstone on their resume. But I did enough project work on the side that I didn't even have room to add some projects that I did in school and in classes. The other thing was was that being a little bit more personable. Just when you talk to recruiters, depending on what kind of industry you want to go into. If you want to go into, let's say, like consulting on something, definitely look for people that are a little bit more personable. But for example, if you're applying for, let's say, like some of the more technical roles, that might not be that necessary, right? It depends on what kind of role you're applying to. But I think the big one is because, like, for example, if you're trying to get interview from applying online or on campus, you gonna compete with thousands of the resumes, like 400, 500 of the resumes, right? And if everyone has a robot project as their activity, it doesn't really separate you that much, right? So I think just having some experiences that are different, especially in the other thing is like more personable or someone that will remember their experience, right? For me, trying to start my own company and going through work for that for about 3, 4, 5 months, I think that was the key that everyone I talked to will remember for like months. That, oh, this kid I met, he was working on his company that does this, right? I think that was a huge one. Having like a brand name like Rolls-Royce definitely helps. A lot when you talk to people, they're like, "Oh, no way, that's really cool," because just the brand name carries a lot of weight. I mean, the Rolls that I work for, they don't even make cars, right? But when people think of Rolls-Royce, the first thing they think of is the fancy, luxurious cars. So it just kind of gets like people, oh, no, that's pretty cool, you know. So I think that the key to get the interviews is mostly to somehow the recruiter or whoever is looking at your resume to remember out of 500 people.
Yeah.
But yes, I think doing some projects on side, some way being a little bit different and coming up with things that you do that people will remember. A lot of time it also works when, for example, if the recruiter, let's say you were really into, pick a sport, whatever sport you were really into, right? Say you were really good, a runner or someone, and the recruiter might be a runner, right? That's a really good coincidence. Now they're gonna remember you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just some kind of experience with school or some club. You might get lucky with having similar social interests.
Yeah.
Probably same fraternity, right? Probably having same sports interests or something like that they will remember you. And then the qualification has to be there. Like it's not gonna work if someone has 2.5 GPA and meets exactly everything else with the recruiter, right? That's not gonna work either.
Yeah,
I think your education helps you until some point, but once you get above 3.0 or whatever the require is, once you get that to make the cutoff, then it comes down to all the other things as well.
Awesome, yeah. So, I guess you might have touched on this a little bit, but what about Accenture intrigued you the most? Like, what led you specifically to that consulting firm?
Yeah. So they're one of the big in tech. So I do want to stay in tech, right? Yeah, I still like the technical background.
Yeah.
Still like the technical field in general. So I do want to stay in tech consulting and not like management consulting or something else. And Accenture is one of the biggest one for tech consulting.
Yeah.
That's one big thing. The other is the people that I met at the career fair. They're just really friendly, just really nice. That was really cool. In consulting in general was big was that as I said, I will get bored if I do something for like more than 8 months probably.
Yeah.
I want the project-based work. The other thing was their offer was pretty good, realistically. It's just, to be real, like their offer was pretty much on par with other offers that I had, and it was tech consulting. The other reason would be that like analyst consulting, that kind of job, it's also a big company, so it has the name for it, right? Everyone knows Accenture. It might have good impression, bad impression, but they know about it. Like they heard of it, right? So it's a big company, so it has ups and downs, but I think I'm confident enough that if I go to a big company, I can still find my path. Usually it's hard when you go to a big company, right? There's so many things going on. But then you also get the resources that comes with it. And I think at this point when I'm trying to, let's say, change my focus from aerospace or having the background of aerospace to tech, I kind of need the resources more than the other things that smaller companies will offer. So I think Accenture has like a really good development program right out of school. So I thought that was one of the big reasons. And then so it will be that, the people, and it's pretty well known brand. And the other thing that I pretty much was like distinguished compared to other offers I had. A lot of my other offers weren't location. I think opportunity wasn't there for different locations, right? Like Accenture is everywhere. You can go to any big city, any small city. Like doesn't matter. You can go to any city. They probably have Accenture office there. Whereas a lot of other offers I had were probably in 2 cities in the U.S. or 3 cities in the U.S. And for me, that played pretty much the biggest part. I didn't want it to have tied to a location, not yet. So with Accenture, I have opportunity to change location without changing the company. If I want to go somewhere in U.S. outside of U.S. So that was a huge one compared to other companies. Yeah.
So you touched on the career fair, but can you give us a little behind the scenes, some tips and tricks, and the do's and don'ts of the career fair, and what your contact process and interview process was like?
So for any consulting, the big one would be networking. Like for me, especially coming from the engineering background, right? I had no clue.
Yeah.
Like wasn't for engineering, it's like you got the technical skills, a little personable, and you were good to go. Like they wouldn't like engineering firms won't have 5 different networking events before career fair on campus. Yeah. Like they wouldn't have. For Accenture, they had like 4 different events before career fair, or they came to 3 different career fairs.
Yeah.
Versus if you look at any engineering firms, they'll come to one career fair, they'll have one networking, maybe one networking event before that, right? So I think there's a difference that you can see. Like consulting definitely value the networking part of it. I think for any consulting, I had the same thing for EY, right? They had similar experience where you definitely will talk to different people, but from same office or similar team or same area, from different offices maybe, but you'll talk to the group that's working on recruiting or just even have some kind of feedback on campus from someone from the group. Probably you would have opportunity to probably meet with someone from the group about 4 times before career fair, right? Yeah. And I think it might boil down to when they sit in the room, how many people can actually say like, oh yeah, I remember Krushi, right? Yeah. For me, it was a little bit different. For me, it was different because when I first went to talk to Accenture, I actually did not talk to them that many times. It just being but I know a lot of other people, that's how they get it. Like you definitely need to do the networking. You definitely need to know the company well. For me, my startup that I was working on was really similar to what they're working on in Columbus in the Innovation Hub. So that kind of got their attention. And from there, just from my experience, lined really well with their actual things that they're looking for, like tech background, and coming from startup background, being like working with clients for my startup. I think that was the differentiator that kind of differentiated me from compared to other CS majors or any other like normal like ISC is a big one, right? Differentiated me from them. Just because first when I talk to someone about aerospace engineering, consulting doesn't come in their mind, right? Like if when I go talk to Accenture or EY, they're like, oh, what are you doing here? So having the experience of trying to have my own startup and working in the client-based environment was, I think, a huge one for me. But the big one I would say is definitely go to each networking event, talk to people, as many people as possible, and couple things quick would be like, first, that even if you don't go to networking events, try to find the people that you know that can. And the other thing is like finding a job is like you also trying to find the company that you want to work for. It's not just job, right? So do your research. Like it's not gonna be good if you feel like, oh, I'm not gonna like this company, but I don't have a job. I need a job right now. It's not gonna be the same. Your growth wouldn't be there. You won't be happy. It's just not going to work out. So might as well use this, like whatever networking opportunities they have to actually figure out, would you want to work for them, any company, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why they try to have this many networking events, because they also want to know that would they like to work with you, or would they want to have you come in for interview? Because it definitely takes a lot of time and resources to do that, right? So for Accenture, the process was kind of different than other ones. For me, it was also a little bit different because it was my probably first or second time doing case study. Going to interview and realizing, oh, there's supposed to be a case study and not just question and answer, like technical interview, right?
Yeah.
So for interview, it was that I went to a couple events, but I know for EY, right, it was the same way. I went to, I think, 4 or 5 different events, office hours, you call that career fair, networking night, combining all of those, probably 4 or 5 different events. I ended up getting the first round interview. So with Accenture, the process, once you get interview, is really fast. For me, it was that I had interview on Friday. So they tell you after the career fair, they tell you about in a week that you're going to have the first round interview, and you have an interview within 2 days. Now, I had another interview in New York, so I ended up having a phone interview.
Okay.
So then, usually it's in person. It's in person on campus if you get interview through career fair or something through handshake or something like that. So that you get, let's say for our case, it was I found out on Tuesday or Wednesday, I have an interview on Friday. Okay. I do this interview before my other interview in New York in the morning, and then I find out on Saturday that the second interview should be on Monday.
Okay.
So it's right. So they give you from Tuesday to Friday, from Friday to Monday. Now I was in Michigan for that week for another interview, so I had to push it back to Wednesday. But usually, the way it works is you go through networking events, you do networking. If you figure out that you got the interview, then in a week you will know, and you have an interview in like let's say 2 or 3 days. And it's usually on Friday, and then they tell you Saturday by afternoon, evening that your second round, if you get it on Monday, and that's two back-to-back interviews. It's their case study and then also another just recruiter kind of interview. One of the like 1.5 is behavioral, one is case study, the other half is just kind of a little bit of technical, a little bit of just figuring out how you are and just getting to know you better, right? So you one with director, you got one with the recruiters, and you got one with just someone who is analyst or consultant right now. Then you do, or you may have 2 with directors. Mine was a little bit different, so because my interview was kind of spread up because I just had a lot of other interviews during that time.
Yeah.
Usually you have 3 interviews though. One case study, one behavioral, and then the other one is partially behavior, partially just kind of talking to someone. Then once you finish your interview on Monday, you will know you will know in 2 days if you got offer or not.
Okay.
So their process is really fast once you get the interview. So you would go from Tuesday to Tuesday, from getting no interview to next Tuesday having an offer if you do well in the interview. For me, my experience was a little bit different because the next week I was in Michigan for an interview. So I ended up doing my first one technical interview on Tuesday, the other interview on Wednesday, and ended up getting offer on Friday. But it's still pretty fast paced.
This week for sure.
Yeah, but networking is probably the huge one. Just knowing people and then having the right experience.
Yeah, experience is key. So I guess a question to wrap it up. So do you plan on pursuing technological consulting long term, or would you ever pursue your startup or go back to aerospace engineering? What are you thinking?
Yeah. I don't think I will get back to aerospace engineering.
No. Okay.
Most likely no. It could change though. I don't know. But yeah, I would probably work on my startup not like in a year or 2, but I'll try to get back to startup, or in some ways from probably get to smaller firms later.
Okay, more specialized work.
Yeah, basically once I get through the program and get more experience. But it will be in consulting, some way, some form. So, yeah.
Very impressive. All right. I guess that's most of what I had. So thank you for your time today, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I just ended the recording, so that was a great job.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that was good. So I hope that went smoothly.
Yep, I think so too. Yeah, I didn't think it was. I mean, I saw it. Yeah, I looked at the questions first, so it was pretty good.
Yeah,
but
you did a good job. It was